I just need to. But yeah, so if you're wondering what I'm doing right now, I decided just this has been something has been eating me a little bit. So has been eating me a little bit because I've been meaning to do this for a while now. Just because, just because I really wanted to do this. God, that hurt. That did not go that well. So pretty much, I'm just gonna rank. Yeah, so pretty much, I'm just gonna rank all the Planet of the Apes movies, just because I've been thinking about this even in like the shower and shit. So first things first, let me just see if I could switch up the. Yeah, yeah. Let me just edit some of the stream info. There we go. Just... All right, so it should just look like. There we go. So yeah, this should be what I look like right now, and so yeah. First things first. If you're wondering what I guess I'm gonna put first thing. Let me see. I'm gonna add something here. I'm gonna put haven't seen. So already, I don't think I've seen Back to the Planet of the Apes, the evolution, the Forgotten City of the Planet of the Apes, Treachery and Greed of the Planet of the Apes, blah, 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 the Liberty and Pursuit of the Planet of the Apes. Which you might say, well, that's not a lot, but I've seen at least all the mainline ones, and I haven't seen the Tim Burton remake, though I have seen that pointless hub video on it, which I would highly recommend watching that video because it is actually pretty funny. I think it's genuinely funny. But also it does go through a lot of decent reasons why that one doesn't work. But once again, I have to see it. And finally, believe it or not, I have not seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes yet. I've been meaning to, but I don't know. I feel like I had to be in the mood for it. Like that's it, really. So already, I'm gonna put. So let's see here. The OG Planet of the Apes. Honestly, S tier. Seriously, such a great. It's really good science fiction. It explores a lot of ideas such as authority, the religion, science, and I do think it even kind of explores the idea of what makes a superior being. By that I mean I think it kind of dismantles a lot of the ideas. Now, later on in the series, it would kind of go into like the inter-ape play. But what I do find interesting about the original was the fact that you kind of did see that a little bit. Well, you did see a little bit of that in the original Planet of the Apes, where even the apes were arguably not on equal footing with each other. They kind of still were bioessentialist. They viewed their species as inherently like that there are inherent like that they like one that their species is inherently one of these things. The chimpanzees were the scientists, the gorillas were the warriors, and I think the orangutans typically were the clergy. And the thing is, like later movies would try to kind of expand on it, but I do think there was like a good touch in that one, in the first one. And honestly, Charlton Heston, he's just a great actor. So, like, there's so many great actors there, and quite honestly, Taylor, the main character, genuinely is actually Give the, I mean, even for the fact he can't speak, he is impressive. Just very impressive in his ability to just act, just purely through pantomime. I, I guess my point will always be that it is. I know like the old effects and all that can be looked at as a little silly, but I still think they are. It's still a very iconic. And quite honestly, I do think you should give it a watch if you haven't. Now, that said, beneath the Planet of the Apes, and I'll be real with you, I'm gonna put it in D tier for fucking dumb. Good lord, what were they thinking with that movie? First things first, I kind of think it ruins the metaphor a bit. I think it ruins the metaphor if you have this secret intelligent super intelligent telepathic irradiated humans in you know underneath the crust or whatever, right? Or in the underground, which look, I could kind of see what metaphor they were going for, but really I think it kind of ruins the metaphor that the first one was going for. And instead it just makes it so campy and even, let's be real, just schlock. It's just a schlocky movie, really. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't get a chance to watch it when it was on HBO Max, and I didn't really pay for like a lot of the. I saw it on the archive.com, right? Which the Internet Archive is amazing. It was literally, and I think it was like a VHS recording of the movie. That's how I saw it. And I hate to admit it, but the quality matched, like the visual quality matched the script quality, in my opinion. It was cheap, kind of shitty, and quite honestly, a little bit of an insult to one of the greatest science fiction movies of the 70s. I don't know, man. It just baffles me. Like, a lot of the creative decisions in Beneath the Planet of the Apes just baffle me. Like, why do you, why? Why do you, like the big thing I always think of is just what, like I kind of feel like their super, like the ape superstition should have just been enough to why they didn't go into the Badlands. Not only that, but I just found like the original character they had. I just found the new character to be, for lack of a better term, boring. He was just a pale imitation of Taylor. In fact, let me look up who was the. Hmm, actually, let me just go to their IMDb real quick. Now, let me see here. I think it might have been John. Let me see here. What the hell? So yeah, I do think it was John or Brent. I don't know. I just didn't think it lived up to the potential that the first one gave, that the first one had. And I'll be honest, I just thought the main character in this one was just a pale imitation of Taylor. Like the only redeeming value I did have was its insight into the ape society. And even then, I would kind of argue it became a little shallow after a while. Pale imitation of what I think made the first one great. Let me see. Then we have Escape of the Planet of the Apes. And I would say I'd actually put it kind of between B tier and C tier. Mostly on the fact that Dr. Zira and Cornelius are really. He was Cornelius, right? Sorry, let me. Uh, yeah, I'm sorry. I had to kind of pull this up again. And also, I got it wrong. It was actually the late 60s. Like, the first one was from the late 60s. Oh, yeah, Cornelius and Zira. They're just really charming and just amazing characters. And I'll be honest, they honestly they hold up the movie the most because honestly, story wise, it is kind of dumb again, but at least it kind of pulls up interesting ideas about I think fate. How much control do we have in the fate of our lives, in the fate of the future? And I do think, at least to some degree, it poses that very interesting question. But also that I kind of hate to admit it, it is just a fun movie. A fun movie with really good characters in it. The sad part though, that I found at least was just like, and I felt like it wasn't trying to be as good as the first one. Where Beneath I kind of just thought was just kind of a cash grab. This one I could kind of see its merits. That said though, it is it is not like the best out of all out of all the movies. It is genuinely, but it's just a generally good movie. And I'll be honest, I kind of feel like at least hmm, I feel like Conquest gets pretty close to. I'll actually put Conquest before Escape. I think Conquest is kind of equal quality, but not like, the best quality of the Planet of the Apes. I'll be honest, you start seeing how cheap the movies started to get much later on. The costumes, although still impressive, well, it's less the costuming and more the setting. The scenes, the scenes, well, not the scenes, the settings, the set design just kind of got cheap, or it felt very cheap to me. That said, I appreciate what they did in this movie. I thought the uprising was really cool, especially and I'll be honest, Aldo, the main ape in this one, I thought was actually a really compelling character. He didn't feel like a cheap knockoff of any of the characters. He felt unique, and I thought he was decently rounded. The thing is, though, I just don't think he was in that great of like. I think he's a good enough movie. That's it. Like I feel like as it goes on, these movies don't really reach the heights of the original. But I can understand why there's a solid fandom for the later Planet of the Apes movies. Except for Beneath. I'm sorry. That fucking I swear, Beneath is one of the stupidest movies I have ever seen in my life. Good lord. Not only that, but in my opinion, it ruined. You know what? Sorry, I keep bragging on Beneath. I know there might be fans of it, but like, why? Like, how are you a fan of it? It's so dumb. Like, it is just schlock. It is pure dreck. It is pure schlock. I don't see how you can appreciate it. Like, I actually am asking people this. Like, if you've seen Beneath the Planet of the Apes, how can you like this movie? I just don't get it. I legitimately just do not get it. Sorry. Yeah, so Escape and Conquest are fine movies. They're perfectly fine. They're not as good as the original, and I'm sorry I keep having to harp back on that. It's just it's just how I feel. Like they're not the best movies in the franchise, but they are good movies on their own. And honestly, I kind of had to get. I'll be honest, I'm kind of a little bit in between these two movies. I'll be honest, I feel like let me see here. What was it? It was Battle, right? Yeah, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. I'll be real with you. I just it kind of goes in between, weirdly enough. Like I think in some aspects, I think it did better than Conquest, where I think it did a little worse than Conquest. I do think it's a little. I'll be honest. Once again, Aldo or Caesar now in this movie, because he goes from being Aldo to Caesar. The main ape. I think he was a very compelling character. I think he had a very interesting arc in understanding how to best lead his people and how best to maneuver in his new society. But I will admit, it did kind of get a little cheap towards the like. It really did feel like a very cheap movie to watch. And like, look, look. I don't know what the budget of it was, but it just felt so freaking cheap, man. Like it was mostly the setting. It looked like their setting was like a fucking park. Like a park they rented for 3 days or some shit, man. But you know what? It's a lot better than Beneath. And I also just think that its ending is very schlocky in the sense of it's very saccharine. But I do like how hopeful it is. And to be fair, it's a weird series, admittedly. The first one, it makes sense as sort of a Rod Sterling esque, Twilight Zone esque science fiction feature. More in the sense of like more thought provoking and all that. The rest kind of feel more like kind of B movies you would watch in a drive-in. You know what I mean? Like that little like intermission starting things I would put in that I have. It feels like you'd watch those, get your snacks, go into your car, watch it, probably make fun of it a bit, at least at some of the effects of it, and then kind of leave, right? And look, at the end of the day, I think this was a strong film franchise. Well, with these exceptions. I feel like these movies I guess that's just it. These movies kind of feel like their own thing. And I think that's it. They feel too much like their own thing for me to dislike it. This one in my opinion kind of squandered a lot of the potential the setting had. And I think ruined a lot of the metaphors that it had. Honestly, I think Planet of the Apes, the original, works very well as a self-contained story. And I think a lot of the attempts to expand it never reached the good heights. At least for the original series. Then, like I said, I mean, I think this was like their TV show. And like I said, I haven't seen the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes reimagining. Which I will say this. What the fuck? Oh, uh, that was from my ranting earlier. But yeah, yeah, like I said, I haven't seen these movies, so I really don't think I haven't really seen these movies. Honestly, I'm gonna move this to F. Well, actually, I think it's an F tier. It's just, uh, nah, it's actually just a D tier. Look, at the end of the day, it is just a funnily bad movie. It's it's too. I'll admit this. It's too interesting to hate. It's not boring to watch. It's just stupid, and I like it in that sense. And it gives me something to talk about. Well, these ones are kind of just competent enough movies to the point where it's like I didn't hate watching them, but I really wouldn't see myself owning them. You know what I mean? And I am kind of talking relative to the series, right? Like S tier of the series. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I think these were just like a baseline okay movies. All right, but like I said, I still think the original works very well as a self-contained, and I actually think, and I think a lot of the sequels, although kind of contributed interesting work, interesting in a lore sense, very nerdy sense, they're just not great movies on their own. That said, I do think a lot of the reboot movies were actually really good. Let's start with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and honestly, A tier. Once again, Caesar. Caesar is such a great character. Maurice is the goat. Honestly, honestly, the apes really carried this movie. I kind of hate to admit it, but mm, here's the thing, though. As good as the movie is, it is really just because of the apes. The human characters were kind of just lame, honestly. The human characters were kind of lame. They were kind of boring, honestly, and quite honestly, I'm sorry, I keep repeating myself, but I don't know. In general, I just don't think the human characters were that interesting in this film, but the ape characters were. Caesar, Buck, Maurice, and shit, what was the bonobo's name? I actually kind of forgot what the bonobo's name was. Which, fun fact, apparently, like, chimpanzees are a lot more aggressive than bonobos, which I find it very interesting. Actually, let me look it up real quick. Sorry. Sorry. That said, I'm not a big fan of the name. It's a little generic. Let me see here. Koba! Yeah, Koba. Koba was an interesting character in the series. Well, yeah, like I said, apparently bonobos in, like, actual real life, they're not that violent. They have the capacity to be, but their hierarchy is based off fucking, not really, violence like apes, well, chimpanzees are. I don't know where I was going with that one. Ugh, okay, so, but yeah, Rise real is a really good movie, and I do think you should watch it. That said, I think honestly these movies, in my opinion, got better as they went on. So I'm gonna put kind of Dawn and War up there. And honestly, as a trilogy, these were some of the best science fiction of the of their time. Well, even of this time, very is you know what I mean? Seriously, Caesar is the goat. Apes together, strong. Ah, shit. So yeah, I don't know why I did this very impromptu, but I'm kind of happy I did, just because I've been meaning to put a lot of my opinions out there. And honestly, I might give a lot of these a chance, because I've actually heard really good things about Kingdom, and I've heard this is good for a laugh. And I mean, I would not be surprised if these had their fans. But yeah, honestly, I think this is a good representation of like how I feel about the Planet of the Apes films. I don't really think there's a Well, okay, it kind of borders on this one, but really, I don't think there's a bad movie. Like, there's not a movie that I would just say is not entertaining. You know what I mean? At least the ones I've seen. There's not a movie I would say is not entertaining, not fun, and at least doesn't give me something to talk about. Look, I kind of railed on Beneath a lot, but that's just because I really don't think it's that good of a film. I don't hate it. And I really do think the modern, well, quadrilogy right now, but like the modern trilogy, at least Caesar's trilogy, was great. I think it showed a lot of honestly, I think it did I think it was the best case scenario for a prequel of the Planet of the Apes that we could ask for. That said, I will say this though: the original is still the goat when it comes to science fiction. And quite honestly, look, I do think people will be talking about this trilogy. Well, you know what I mean. I do think people will be talking about the reboot series in the next 10 years. We've been talking about this one since the 60s, the late 60s. We've been talking about this one since the late 60s. And I do think it says a lot about. I do think it kind of does say a lot that whenever people find out there are sequels to Planet of the Apes, they're like, wait, there are sequels to it? That said, I don't think they're bad, science fiction. Well, okay, not science fiction per se. I don't think they're bad movies. They're entertaining enough, but they're just not as great or as good as the original. So yeah, if you really do want to watch honestly, if you want my reviewing order, if you want to watch this I guess chronologically, which to be fair, given the timeline of this fucking series, I don't think you can. I would start with Rise and end with Planet of the Apes. Like the original Planet of the Apes. So yeah, do you agree, disagree? Let me know.